What's up everybody, welcome to the Miniverse. So I wanted to make some more terrain for my Gaslands game, and I wanted to use jersey barriers to scale, and I wanted them to look like actual concrete. So I took some inspiration from Luke over at Geek Gaming Scenics. He did a video a while back where he used plaster and made some big barriers for other war games, I think 40K. But anyway, I really liked the way you could break it down and it actually looked like crushed concrete to scale. So I had to make a mold and then cast them in plaster. Well, there's no use in me explaining it to you right now. Let's just get on after it. Alright, so I was initially going to make some out of milliput or green stuff or something, but I found these on Thingiverse by Sablebadger, and I really liked the little corrugations or crenellations or whatever in them. And they were already the right size, so I just started by printing a bunch of those out. Then I just used this foam core from the dollar store and a really thin bit of hot glue on the bottom to stick them down. And I used that foam core just to make a barrier around to hold all the mold agent in there. And I made sure that hot glue sealed up all the little cracks and any little crevices that stuff might leak. So this is the mold compound that I went with. I went with urethane because it's much cheaper than silicone, and it's a little harder to work with, but you know, I'm a cheapo, so I went with that. Another thing I kind of liked about it was that it's mixes to 1-to-1 ratio by volume, so I didn't have to get the scale out. I could just use my little cups. So I mixed that up 50-50, and then I stirred the crap out of it for a long time. I made sure it was really mixed up really well. That stuff's really thick. And then I almost forgot this step. You need a release agent, and that's all I had. That's the one big downside to using urethane, is that it will stick like hell to everything. So I used that pen and then the little paper towel there to make sure it was all spread out and I didn't have any areas where it was going to stick all over the place. And then I just dumped it in there. I wasn't super worried about bubbles because I have a plan to get rid of those, which mostly worked. But I ran out and had to make some more. So my genius plan to get rid of bubbles was to use my little paint nail shaker like a concrete shaker to shake those bubbles out, but I found that foam kind of dampened it a little bit and it didn't work real well just sitting on it like that. So I decided to try it a little different and put it right on top of the paint shaker thing and just kind of let it spin around a little and do its thing, and that seemed to work pretty well. You can really see it there in that fast forward, all the bubbles rising to the surface. It's a lot more exciting than watching it happen over the course of a few minutes. And once that was done, I let it dry overnight, and then I just ripped all the foam core off of it like an animal. And I got a really sharp brand new X-Acto blade to trim it down into shape. And then this part right here is pretty key to make sure anything that goes underneath it gets trimmed off. That way the copies made in the future aren't all messed up on the bottom. And then I just worked them out of there, and I was pretty eager to see if any of it stuck. So I checked it out real good to see if there was any bits stuck to it, and it looks like it came out pretty clear. So I just went ahead and popped the rest of them out of there, checked them out, and they all seemed to come out pretty good without any pieces of urethane stuck to them. So then I trimmed up the bases a little better and trimmed up the outside, make it work a little easier. And I was pretty eager to get some of these done, so I grabbed the mold release there, sprayed it down, and then went to mixing up some plaster. Just a little plaster in there. It's not going to take very much at all, so I just did a little bit. And I went a little overboard on the black paint, mixed it up with some water, and it came out pretty dark. So I ended up having to put some more plaster in there, some more water down a little bit so that it was more gray than that dark gray. So I got it down to about a concrete color. I went ahead and filled the mold up. Again, not too worried about bubbles because I got the little machine which looks pretty cool going this fast. And since it was pretty thin, I had to leave it sit overnight before I could get at them. And once they were dry, I just went ahead and popped them out of there and then took a real close look. And there are still some bubbles in there, but I think it's going to be okay for, you know, wasteland concrete. It's not too bad. They're not perfect, but they don't need to be for what we're using for. So I just went ahead and demolded all of them and cleaned them up a little bit with a brush. And then it's time to make some bases for them, so I just used MDF like I usually do, but a little change up here. I switched to using tacky glue. I developed a super glue allergy, so tacky glue, just glue those down, then added a little extra glue, and then got my little mix of sand and baking soda out, and just dumped that all the way around and let it dry. And once that was dry, I went ahead and cleaned it up with the brush, and then I found that the tacky glue didn't make a very thick coating of cover on there, so I went ahead and put another coat of tacky glue and sand and baking soda mix on there. And that second coat turned out to be just enough, so I just went ahead and started tearing at it with my fingernails and using some of these real fine tip metal tweezers to put little bullet holes in there and some little scratches and just little chunks of bits, make it look like it's been worn and, you know, just sitting around the Gaslands circuit for a while. In an extreme close-up, you see all the little damage and wear that I put in there. I think it's starting to come to life a little bit. With that, we were ready to start painting, so just some watered down brown cheap craft paint all the way around. And then once that was dry, used the khaki and just overbrushed. And that's pretty much what I did with all the rest of my terrain. This way it should fit in pretty good when we're done. And then I started adding some stuff to dress it up a little bit. I took one of those barriers and crushed it up so that I could have some little pieces to put here and there around so it looked a little more like they were crumbling. And then some final finishing touches there. I just gave it a little dry brush with the khaki so to make them look like they're dusty. And at some point in my life I got this Nuln Oil gloss, and I never really use it for much, but it makes really good oil spill looks. So I used some of that, and then I got out my Army Painter Wasteland Tufts, and I put a few of those around here and there. Alright guys, so that's what I came up with for some jersey barriers to kind of better define the space in the game. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. And I've got another run here that's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and make some more of these, and we'll see you guys next time.